No, I've been making games, wanting to make games my entire life. And in fact, uh, like I think a lot of kids out there, I may not have, I didn't know that being an independent game developer was possible, and in fact, at times it probably wasn't. But what I do now is probably what I would have described to you as my calling when I was 10 years old. Um, so uh, uh, so yeah, I don't think that there have been times, certainly while I've been on my own, when I've struggled, and struggled to make ends meet, struggled to find an audience, that kind of thing. Um, uh, and so there definitely have been times when I've had to consider the idea that I wasn't going to be capable of pursuing my dream, which would have probably crushed me. And I suspect I would never be able to stay away from it forever. I suspect I probably would always gravitate back towards exactly what I'm doing now. Um, uh, but yeah, I think that I've known all along that this is the way I want to do things. I'm quite happy with where I'm at. Um, there's Yeah, life is good.
Yeah.
I made my first game when I was 7, and I think that I I've kind of never looked back. I one of those lucky people that kind of always knew what he wanted to do from the moment that he had a conception of his future. When I started in 2004, 2005, like January 2005. Um, and back then, there was a small but emerging casual game scene, or I should say, downloadable gaming scene, which was largely focused on casual games. And that really sort of was the pioneer plant for the downloadable game market in general. Meaning that all of the infrastructure for the infrastructure for downloading and buying games online, as well as the training and the training of the consumers, basically getting the consumers to know that that's possible and it's safe, and the games that they can download are fun, all happened within the casual game scene. But unfortunately, just destroyed itself, largely largely because of the larger casual game portals, bought up studios and basically just started cloning themselves over and over and over again. And it became, for about a year there, it became a really depressing, difficult scene, a difficult place to be. And then 2007 happened, the 2007 IGF was a big one. I think that was the World of Goo Fez year. All of a sudden, I think people woke up to the idea that you could make really amazing games that would appeal to everyone, including the casual game audience, that you could download, that would also be interesting and fun. And I'd say that that's really when the sort of movement of indie games began, the modern movement of indie games began at that 2007 IGF. Yeah, there's a marketing book that I've been seems to come up in conversation a fair amount lately, or that I've been bringing up in conversation lately, I should say. It's a bit older. I read it for the first time when I started in 2005. It's called The Purple Cow. It's a Seth Godin book, and the idea of the purple cow is that cows are boring unless you see a purple one. Um, and the reason cows are boring is you've seen them before, and you don't even see them anymore. So I think that you aren't. In it, I guess that the lesson there is that innovation for innovation's sake actually sometimes is important. That it's important to just do something new And along with that, you may take the risks. You may take a risk that your purple cow is going to have purple milk and no one will want it. But at least you have a purple cow and people noticed, and people tried that purple milk. And it's a way for, say if you're a small time farmer and you have a tiny dairy farm, but you have this one purple cow, that's how that small time farmer is going to make more than his a subsistence living. I think the same thing typically applies to indie game developers, that you can make games by numbers, and you can some people actually do get rich or make it big on that, particularly like in the iOS market. But at the same time, one of the real keys to succeeding, I think, is to do something that is notable. And if you take the basic definition of the word notable, something that people would take note of or notice. That's sort of the core, I think, of marketing an indie game today. Yeah, I love the Humble Indie Bundle. I think it's fantastic. My first game as an indie venture Africa, I gave away 10% of the profits to help protect wild spaces in Africa, actually. So that from a charitable perspective, it's something that I definitely have done before, and I'm continually interested in doing. As far as the bundle itself, typically there's been one instance of a game launching in the bundle, and Monaco won't do that. But I do hope at some point to have Monaco in a Humble Indie Bundle, assuming that they continue to keep making them. I gotta say, I would be more excited about experimenting with hardware, but I'm very wary about ever doing something that ties me into a single business partner is really the problem. Because typically people on the publishing side of things, there aren't that many. There aren't that many good ones. There just really aren't. And on the platform holder side of things, they can be good one minute and bad the next. So that's not typically the way I think about my things that I'm interested in working on. I come from a history of being a PC gamer, and before that a Commodore 64 gamer, and I'm a board gamer, and I like sports and that kind of thing. So I tend to sort of dream up the games in my head before I think about them in the context of their platform. That said, the things that I don't have a solid plan in my head of the next game I want to make, but I do have a few possibilities, and I'd like to make a console-ish RTS, except make it good. Break it back down and strip away the existing RTS formula and strip it all the way down to the concept of what is real-time strategy at its core, and make something that works really well on the console. Then another possibility is I'd like to build an endless RPG, an RPG which naturally expands on itself. And I don't want to get into too much detail about how that works, but I do love RPGs, and I hate it when they end. Although I'm not a fan of the big MMOs and the grind and the rating that occurs after you've explored all the content. Sure. You can go to monacoismine.com. That will link you to and shows some of the content to the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/monacoismine, and twitter.com/monacoismine. And my personal Twitter is twitter.com/Andy Schatz. That's ANDYSCHATZ. Um, and yeah, I'm pretty active about updating fans on those. And trying to write. I'm always trying to write some interesting stuff. So um, definitely take a look at the Facebook and Twitter pages and follow along.